Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living in New York City. You can see Reverend Judah, Celia, and a few familiar faces up above. So welcome to our class. We had a little bit of a glitch, which happens in our digital world, but all is well. So I first want to welcome the people on Zoom, and then the people who are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're happy to know that more and more people are learning about self-healing every week through our social media. So that's really great. We're reaching people that we never were able to reach before, and we're having a virtual membership now. So anybody who wants to can support our work. Our work does really great things and helps people all over the country. You can support us with just $50, and with that you get several audio talks, and you get some counseling sessions if you'd like them too. Tonight, I want to revisit a little bit in terms of consciousness, our attitudes, attitudinal healing, some things I've spoken of before, and then I want to hear from you and see what's going on. I was gone for a few days. Some of you might not have even noticed because we have recorded the lessons. I went to a convention, a ministers' convention in the Palm Spring area. And it's always good to reconnect with fellow ministers because you can compare notes and see how things are going. And it was interesting because I was there and half the people that I was watching in the hotel and the conference were being zoomed in from other parts of the country. So this virtual type of messaging and services are definitely going to be a thing of the future in the post-COVID age. We thought it was going to happen anyway, but it definitely happened quicker than most of us could have ever anticipated. So if you want to be part of the center, first of all, send Jimmy a message, and he doesn't really need much information. Usually people send their email, phone number. He'll send a text message to you once a week or whenever we have anything going on, and then put you onto our list so you can get an e-letter from us each week, which will be filled with spiritual gems of all kinds. So it's an open invitation. Please join. Tonight I want to talk about, this class is called our Louise Hay class, our Hay and Holmes class. Ernest Holmes was the teacher, the founder of our teaching. And this particular New York chapter had the famous Raymond Charles Barker, and one of his students was Louise Hay. So Louise Hay actually learned these very lessons here at this center in New York. Tonight I want to talk about healing. We talk about healing every single week here, every Thursday night. I've had a lot of phone calls in the past few days of people who are, using their own words, off track, okay? You can never be lost in spirit, just so you know that, because you're united with spirit. But we can, in our own perception, we can think that we're lost or we're adrift. But, I'll tell you as a minister, you're one with this divine substance no matter what you do. Part of the goal, though, is if you're a truth student, you're working on yourself metaphysically, is to stay in a state of remembrance as often as you can. Develop some spiritual practices or some habits which will remind you to stay in connection. Many of us work against ourselves in the sense that we get too busy to tune into something like this. We get too busy to read. We get too busy to meditate. And when we're out there living that way, it's very easy to forget some of the spiritual principles that we would be reminding you of if you were tuning in. Some of you will watch us on Facebook because everything we do is rebroadcast there, and that's good because you could be watching this at 2 a.m. and getting the message. It's great to be a part of like-minded people. So if you can tune in on a Thursday at 7 p.m. and we also have a Sunday gathering at 10:45. There's a meditation followed by a lesson at 11. Wherever you can do that and join in, I think at least half the good comes from listening to the people after the lesson, because they're going to share their demonstrations. They're going to share what's working for them and how it's working. And even though you might be in an apartment and you're maybe not feeling well, or case of one of my friends, she's going through something very difficult right now. I know she's tuned in, and she's been tuned into other things the past few days, and it's very, very helpful. When you're unplugged and you're not being reminded and you're not reminding yourself, it's very easy to go into another place within yourself where you might feel very alone, like you're a victim of life. You might be focused on your lack of health. You might be focused on what's happening to you that isn't good. It's very, very easy to slip in those states of consciousness where you might think that you're alone in the world and nothing is going well and no one cares. So it's very wise to stay plugged in. And if you're hearing us for the first time, which is often the case, there's always new people, please don't be just one of these one-hit wonders if you can avoid it. The real good comes from staying plugged in to the information and allowing yourself to be reminded. All of us need it. All of us have been programmed with a lot of information since the time we're young boys and girls. And people have passed on to us things that have really been for our good. Our families haven't tried to hurt us in most cases. They're really trying to protect us. But we're at a point in our life where we don't need the same kind of protection. And, we really want to start thinking for ourselves and exploring our life and the possibilities that are available to us. So tonight we're going to look at a few of the things that we do that we might adjust. There was a piece called Attitudinal Healing that I was reading some 20 years ago, and they have different steps which really fit nicely into what we teach here. And what is involved is consciously choosing to let go of states of consciousness that you're afraid of, where you have worry or concern, or where you're holding what Wayne Dyer would have called years ago erroneous beliefs or erroneous ideas. I'm not good enough, I can't, it's too late, I'm not adequate. Wherever you have any of that type of stuff that you have embraced over the years somehow, some way, we want to challenge all that stuff, because none of that's really true, and it's just stuff that you've adopted along the way. Our focus always here is on making things lighter, enlightenment, learning how to live in an affirmative way, to do some reprogramming. The most important thing you have, and the thing you have some control over, is your own thought processes or own consciousness. I believe the work that's in that, I believe the main ideas that are presented in attitudinal healing parallels everything that we teach here. The goal of this practice, always here and there, is acquiring greater peace and happiness. So all of us have a lot of stories within us. If I have a whole story about any one of you, that means I've got a history with you. And I would suggest many of you have histories with different people, and it's very difficult for you to experience these folks in a new way because you're carrying a story. So when we come into this class, we really start to look at some of the stories that we're maintaining, so we can really be in a new moment with people, right? Every Thursday night, it's always going to be about learning to love ourselves. And it's not always easy to love ourselves if we have a low opinion of ourselves, right? Everybody here has had problems in their lives and made mistakes, right? And the people that you've involved yourself with also, you've got a history with, they've made mistakes. So what we're wanting to do here in the teaching is to let go of this sense of right and wrong and who's right and wrong and what we've done and attempt to be in a new moment. I take a look at, fortunately or unfortunately, in recent times, the past few years, I'm watching more and more social media, right? Maybe too much because, we're actively promoting our center and the message. And I watch on social media and Twitter and other places, people, celebrities in particular, damning other people, vilifying other people. And these folks are supposedly, the enlightened ones, as they're condemning half the country. And, and I look at this stuff and I'm thinking, how enlightened is it when you're making other people wrong? Then, of course, in that world, you're indirectly making all their followers wrong. We're always reluctant here in a spiritual center to be making opinions, political or otherwise, because we're not here in the business of trying to see what's wrong or who's wrong. We're in the business here of understanding that there is one power, one love, animating life and all people, and that this love is in everyone. It doesn't matter what their race or what their political positions are. There's this one intelligence and this one love that's in everyone. We don't have to take positions because we're focused on the knowledge that there's not a spot where God is not. So wherever that hatred that resides in other people, we release the need for it. It's not in us. I find at this point in my life, I don't really have the time, energy, or desire to be, trying to find out what's wrong with everybody, or even talking about it, actually. If you're going through a time in your life where you're all caught up in it, right? And you're caught up with people and, it feels acrimonious and they're wrong and you're wrong and all that. You can spend your life that way if you want to, but I would suggest, you think it through a little bit. So if you're going through a tough time, some of the books that help me and I suggest to anybody to pick up and listen, of course, there's our textbook, which none of you will read unless you become seriously involved in the teaching, but there's others that can help. You Can Heal Your Life, the book that most of you start to tune in from. Louise Hay, by the way, her inspiration was Ernest Holmes. Her book, You Can Heal Your Life, sold over 66 million copies, and they say affected over 100 million people. Because she takes the very simplest messages that we teach here and makes them universally available to everybody. We have the ability to make great changes. We have the ability to heal our lives, heal our relationships, drop these feuds, these grievances that we hold towards other people. I've had phone calls this week, and there's people just not getting along with other people, and they're waiting for other people to do something. And then usually if I'm talking to you in a counseling session, I'll say, if you have the consciousness to make that connection, to make it right, then it's really incumbent upon you. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about clearing out that debris, so you can live in connection with other people. It has to begin with us, right? Because you've heard the expression, love holds no grievances. So if you have something, you're holding something, you have anger, animosity, it's really your problem. And, you've heard it before, if you're hanging on to it, it's only hurting you. So with this teaching, we learn that we can heal our relationships, we can heal ourselves, our health can improve. Louise would say deep within you, there's this energy, this eternal life this infinite well of love. And each of us are connected to it. Ernest Holmes would say there's power available to you, and you can learn how to use it, right? So we want to expand our awareness and to know that we're one with the one, and we have the ability to heal, and we heal by means of our consciousness. Consciousness is a funny word. It's really synonymous with awareness. If I have an awareness, which, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. Certainly the world has known that consciousness before. You hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. That's kind of like, it's not very intelligent. It's not very evolved. It's quite primitive. As people like Jesus came into the world, another consciousness came into the world, which was not an eye for an eye, but it was more of turn the other cheek, judge not, that you be judged. Louise Hay would say it in a different way, but it's the same idea. She would say everyone is doing the best that they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. So if you can really get that everybody's doing the best they can, then why would you have any grievances towards them? If you understand that these people, whoever they are, doing whatever they're doing, this is where they are in life, this is what they have evolved to be right now, and they will change. They may not change on your time frame. And the thing is, you will change, and you have changed. We have all changed. We're all growing. You're not the same person that you were 5 years, 10 years ago. You have evolved. And everybody's evolved. Life is, as a teacher said to me, who I was very fond of years ago, life is evoluting along by means of all of us. So I'm not here to judge where anybody's at. And if you're caught up in a life where you're living your life as a victim, and some people get a lot of mileage out of that, we're here to remind you that you don't have to live it that way. You can step out of any of those states of consciousness if you really want to, right? See, the whole thing about life is it's attempting to get your attention. There is this eternal push that's inside of you. You can call it your internal guidance system, you can call it spirit, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But there is that which is within you that is attempting for you to live a greater life experience, to express more life, and to have greater trust in the process of life. So, if you are really about love, which is what we talk about here, then there's no place for grievances. If you're about love, you've got to be about forgiveness. We're going to do a life memorial for Reverend Theodora very soon here, and that was her main theme, love. Love everybody. Just keep loving everybody. And Louise Hay's message was love yourself. When you really, really love yourself, she said, everything in your life begins to work. Part of this process in this teaching is to learn to take nothing personally. That also comes from the 4 agreements. Take nothing personally. So when people are insulting or people are doing whatever they're doing that people do, that's where they are. They might be acting like a real idiot in your estimation. But however they are, this is how they are. And what was said to me probably 30 years ago in a therapeutic group is, whose problem is it? Whose problem is it when somebody else is acting like a fool? It's not my problem. I don't need to take everything personally. I can understand, as I attempt to heal my life, that people are where they are. They're evolving perfectly. There's an adage from religious science: perfect place, perfect time, all the time. See, if you can have that type of equanimity where you know all is well, you're not going to take things personally. You will notice. You just keep noticing. You'll keep noticing that life keeps moving forward. You'll become happier because you're not taking things personally. What you're doing here is you're doing what Ralph Waldo Emerson suggested, is you're hitching your wagon to the stars of bigger ideas. You're stepping out of the world of tit for tat. You know, I'm going to get you back and this and that. It doesn't amuse you enough to go for it. You're being about truly your Father's business, if you want to go back to the New Testament. Well, you know, the story when the mother of Christ was being asked, you know, I want you to go do this and I want you to go do that. And his response was, you know, I'm being about my Father's business. Well, anybody who's in this teaching any length of time, you eventually get to the place where you're just not amused with gossip. You're not amused with half the things that used to preoccupy your time. You're growing spiritually, you're evolving, and you understand people are going to do what they're going to do, but that really doesn't have a great deal to do with you. Okay? You're lifting your sights higher. So how does that start to happen? Well, the thing I advocate every Thursday night is to begin to become mindful of what your conversation is. The conversation that lives within you all week long, what I call the inner dialogue, is the creative dialogue. See, I don't know what it is to live with you 24 hours a day, nor do you know what it is to live with me, but whatever that dialogue is, that tendency of thinking and thoughts is the very thing that's creating your life and your life experience. So if you want to have your life look happier, more joyful, more peaceful, where there's more love expressed and more connection, then it really comes right back to the conversation you're having with yourself. So how do you get there to a more expanded perception? Well, that inner dialogue, there's affirmations, there's spiritual mind treatments, you know, any and all can be helpful. I love, accept, and approve of myself would be one that Louise would have taught 30 years ago. And say that to yourself many, many times. I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. And when you notice that things come up that are causing you pain, you sit with them a little bit to see what you can learn from it, because you're not trying to stuff it. But then you're going to go into an idea where I release the need for this experience. You know, let it teach you what it needs to teach you, and then release the need for it and replace whatever that negative state is with an idea of truth. If you're feeling like a failure of some kind, there's affirmations. You could say, I am as God created me. In the light and the love and the glory, I am whole, I'm complete, I'm wonderful, I'm good. And you will say those things until you bring yourself to a place where you actually believe them. Your words have power if you believe what you're saying. So all of us who are joining in on these calls are evolving, and we're growing, I would say, in light, and we're growing in greater awareness. The things that used to interest us when we were younger and less aware will interest us less. And it's like we're leveling up all the time, and then something will happen where we don't. Something will happen where we'll get snagged. And we'll get too busy to be tuning into a class like this, and then we'll go out, so to speak. And you get caught up in an affair, you get caught up in a job, and you get caught up into a whole thing. And then your life seems to disintegrate for a while. And you are really, in that sense, like the prodigal child, where you're off in the far country. And the thing in that New Testament story is, as soon as the prodigal child wakes up, and the story goes, as he turns to the father comes rushing to the son. It's really to say that you live, move, and have your being in this divine essence and energy. And as long as you're mindful and you're aware of it, you're going to be living a life that's inspired and rich and full of new ideas. When we drown it out and we get too busy, and you're flying solo out there, you're apt to eventually crash and burn. So my suggestion always is develop some spiritual practices. Tune in as often as you can. Those of us who've been at this a while, I can think of Reverend Judith and when Joyce was around, and many of us, Celia, we'll be in a class somewhere every week, or we'll be listening to a Sunday reminder, and we'll actually be doing more because we'll be helping people wherever we can in our day-to-day living because we're committed to our evolution and growth and leveling up. Ernest Holmes, again, who was Louise Hay's, her ultimate source, would say, there's power available to you. There's unlimited power, source energy, a bank account with your name on it, health and healing and all good things are available to you if you want them. But if you want them, you got to want them a little bit more than you want the other stuff. You want to release the confusion, right? You want to release the drama. And so you can step into a world that reflects, the things you really, really want. In this lesson, Louise Hay would say it's nobody's fault that you came into this life and you had the upbringing you had. You were raised by the certain family you did, and you were given a lot of programming. You learned a bunch of stuff, and some of it was wonderful, of course, and some of it wasn't. But wherever you are now, it's up to you. You're an adult. And, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to create a life that works for you? Do you want to heal your life? Because you can. Would you like to learn to thrive? Would you like to talk about the health that you have? Would you like to come from a place of gratitude? Because you can. See, I notice there seems to be two types of people in my day-to-day experience. It's the people who are always coming from the place of what they don't have, and then there's the people who are coming from a place of what they do have. If you're, in essence, when I say counting your blessings, if you're talking about the health that you do have and the opportunities that you do have, and if you're living your life from an affirmative perspective, that's going to have a tendency to expand and grow. And if you're talking about everything that isn't working, that's going to have it work the other way. There's a presence that's in you, that's flowing through you and responding to you all the time. It's in you, it's in everything, back of creation. If this awareness of this presence is not blocked, by ideas of pain and anxiety and anger, fear, you'll begin to notice it in everything. We can train ourselves in attitudinal healing, which is what we're talking about tonight. We can train ourselves to be love finders rather than fault finders. We can slow down the dialogue that we have going around all the time, and we can cultivate an awareness of the idea that I am supplied and supported. And we can possess more calm and more peace. This source is at hand, or you might say the kingdom, if you want, is at hand, and it's here and it's responding to us. Our thoughts, your thoughts, have power, and you have the ability to heal anything that's in your life. If you brought it into your world, maybe through a consciousness of not enough or not feeling good enough, and you've brought any type of dis-ease into your life, you are greater than any condition in your life, and you have the ability to dispel it and to neutralize it and replace it with something greater. We do our work here in consciousness, or some people say in mind, and we can help other people also as long as they have a receptivity to it. We can do affirmative prayer that can help other people as well. One of the main axioms about having health is developing a sense of inner peace. So somehow, some way, it's imperative that you find a way to calm yourself down, and whatever that takes. If you like watching movies or reading books or whatever it is, meditating, find a way to calm yourself down. Keep letting go of fearful thoughts. You could say this is false, evidence appearing real. There's nothing real to support this. You might say, I release the need for this and replace it with something, a bigger idea. From all the 12-step programs I've known, there's an adage, willingness is the key that will open the door. It opens all doors. If I keep on thinking that life is bad and rough and poor me and nobody loves me, nobody cares, and I'm not important, if you keep thinking that way, you'll keep creating that way. So having a willingness to think that your thoughts are important, having the willingness to think that you're important, having the willingness to know that you can heal your life is important. So I guess the question for now would be, do you have the willingness to calm yourself down? Do you have the willingness to heal? Do you have the willingness to have positive expectancy? Okay. You can develop it, but these are questions I ask of you. Would you like to have things get better truly? If so, what are you willing to let go of so that that can happen? Through our teaching, you can come to realize that you are connected with everything, all of life, and know that there is one power and it's responding to you, and that you have direct access. And here's another thing I learned, I think when I was about 30, from a great teacher. He says, anything you need to know will be revealed to you. There is that which is within you that knows. And so you can always ask of Spirit, whatever you need to know, you'll get the answer you need to hear. It may not always be the answer you want to hear, but there is that which is within you that knows and will be revealed to you always. The question is, do you have the willingness to release any and all obstacles, in you that you're hanging on to that are getting in the way of you having inner peace? It might be a job. It could be a person. It could be, you need to put some boundaries on a relationship. It doesn't mean you're necessarily putting the person out of your life, but you might have to redefine how you're having them in your life. Do you have the willingness to release any of these obstacles? I learned as a religious scientist that I'm creating my life. Nobody's doing anything to me. I've learned also that I'm allowing things to happen. Things aren't happening to me. I want to release the need for any language that would suggest that I am a victim of anything, because what we understand here is that we are, in fact, caused our own experience. That doesn't mean that we're to blame for anything. It's just that, we are creating our own lives. All power is ours. So I would hope you develop a little bit of interest out of this lesson and realizing, okay, I have the power. I can learn how to use the power. I might have been messing things up in different ways, but whatever I've done, I can turn it around. Okay, it's not too late. The final chapter hasn't been written. It's the perfect time, and this is the perfect place for you to begin this journey, and we're here to support you in developing all your, I'll call them super abilities. So we'll see you in just 1 minute, the other side of the break, and we can hear what you have to say. So we'll see you in just a second. Bye-bye.